guys. Hello and good evening. I guess it's about 8:20, so I'm between you and a good night's sleep, so I'll try to keep it quick. Better to start with the slides first. Here we go. So, there was a very long topic that I was supposed to speak about, and when I actually looked at it, I realized, I may not be talking about that exactly, but it's going to hopefully give you some perspective about this. You've heard Marty talk about how exciting and empowering it is to be in these tribes and missions. You can go on your own mission, be awesome, blah, blah, blah. I think it's really good for engineers and for the culture and the health of the company that people have that empowerment, right? But as an executive, I have to answer to my investors in the board and other people and explain to them why, or rather how the company's most important things are going to get done, right? And how do you balance this little top-down, bottom-up puzzle that sort of is, it can go wrong very quickly in big companies where people think managers are telling them exactly what to do, or in very hands-off companies where everybody's in the next Steve Jobs, and actually the company is going nowhere, right? So this is the balance, we think, at least based on my experience and all that. And like your first presenter said, some of these are truths, and some of them are opinions, and I won't tell you which is which. Okay, so why you should even listen to me, I think a little bit is before I joined Pipedrive, which is quite recent, 6 months ago, I was at Google working on making search even better. So one example just to give you an idea of what I did there, if you type in the word puppy or small pet, Google will send you, 10 search results of small pets, right, and puppies, and lots of images of cute animals. But actually that is not what you're looking for, right? What you're looking for is maybe pet adoption. And so what I was working on at Google was trying to understand what is your actual task, not your query, not your search result, but what is your actual task, right? And honestly, if you can figure that out creatively, it could be quite useful for users. So that's what I did at Google. And at Uber, I was at Uber at a very interesting time from 2014 to 2017. When I joined in 2014, Uber was basically an American company running the Uber service basically in the US. It would work well in the US, and everywhere else in the world, it was not so good. So I led the team that would help Uber's international business become almost 75% or more of Uber's total business, right? So it was very exciting time, and I really enjoyed that. So a little bit of background there. Now let's get into what I would like to cover today, and I'll do it quickly. 3 things. Long-term planning is still needed. Whether you do tribes and missions and people come up with ideas and pitch them, that's all, I think, really good. But how does that work with long-term planning, right? Shouldn't there be some conflict? Shouldn't there be all these challenges? So we'll talk about that. How do tribes fit into this plan? And then I think the most important thing is no matter how you do it, I've probably done maybe 30, 40 projects. How do you set up a team for success, right? And I think I have a few things that are sort of my guide to success. And if it works for you, I'd be happy to share those with you. So that comes at the end, unfortunately. So the first thing we do in this annual planning process, so at Pipedrive, by December, we need to present to the board of investors and everybody else kind of a vision for where we're going to go as a company, right? What are we going to do? And because we're a software company, a technology company, we have to solve some technology problems that happen to be important technology problems that users care about. So they'll give us some money for it, right? It's very simple. That's how people make money in software. The way that starts, I think, is not by managers, when I say managers, executives, investors, board, whoever else, deciding what to build. What we actually do is we ask the entire company, what do you see, right? Do you see any mountains around you that we need to climb, okay? And I'll give you some examples of these mountains. For example, Pipedrive, as you know, is a tool that helps salespeople sell, right? And it makes it super easy to understand where your deals are, which deals you should move to the next stage, and all that. The other observation you'll have is that salespeople probably spend a lot of time on the phone, right? They're calling constantly. So I was thinking, why isn't phone and the ability to call somebody, for your manager to see, how come this guy is able to call and close the deal so much better than this other guy? What's going on, right? That's important value. So we said, that's one of the mountains that we'd like to climb in 2019, for example, right? So we make a list of all these mountains. We get as much data as possible. It's not a perfect world. But it's important for your leaders to understand the mountains around you and decide, I think, which ones to climb, right? Super important. And it's, if you climb a mountain that you're not ready for, you're going to waste your time, waste your resources, burn a whole bunch of people, and you'll be back at the same place, right? But if you don't pick your mountains, then everybody's going to climb a nice, beautiful hill and feel really awesome. But for me, it's about climbing these mountains, right? So we've got these mountains, and we decide which ones to climb. Again, important note, the mountains don't come from the leaders. The mountains come from everybody around in the organization. We ask people, what do you see? You see a mountain, write 1 or 2 pages about it, and put it in the list of mountains for consideration, right? For each mountain, it's a big investment, right? Imagine going to someone and saying, listen, I'm going to create a team that's going to go climb Mount Everest. We're going to put lives at risk. Software is, again, luckily nobody gets killed in it, but there's life at risk. What do you call money, blood, and treasure, or something like that. So we pick these mountains, the ones with the flags in them, and then we try to marry the mountain with the team, or the mountain with the tribe, right? So the teams are all sitting in the middle. Each tribe, as Marty showed you, has engineers, designers, product managers, researchers, data analysts, marketing, everything you need to run a startup, okay? So from this point onwards, all this big company bullshit is over, right? We went to our executive team and our board and we said, we're going to climb these 5 mountains. We're going to grow the engineering team by this much. Hopefully, the bets will pay off. We'll make so much money. Now leave us the fuck alone, right? It's important to get some separation, right? So that they stop bothering you. Because they know what the plan is. It's important to do that. And then we focus these teams on the mountain they need to climb. Okay, in many cases, the team itself came up with the mountain on their own, so they're very motivated to climb this mountain. So, teams get assigned to these mountains, or they pick it on their own. Then a little bit of lightweight, I would say, handshake, So who am I handshaking with, right? So I say, in every tribe, I think there are 2 or 3 people that I call the tribe elders. The most, the engineering manager that Marty mentioned, right? The most senior person in the tribe on the engineering side. The product lead. So these 2 people are like the co-founders in a company, right? The technical co-founder and the sort of like business co-founder, right? Steve Jobs and who's the other guy? Steve Wozniak. Yeah, I'm just kidding, I know. So what happens is, now we've got these 2 people who really, if you want to behave like a startup, let's organize like a startup, right? Okay, you are the 2 people. Awesome. Here's your team, here's the money, here's the time, but what am I getting in return? What's the handshake? So I get them to write 2019 OKRs. If you can't do this, honestly, you don't deserve a team, let's be honest. If you cannot put in words what you will actually produce at a high level, business objectives, all those things, at the end of 1 year, with a team of 10 people, which is roughly like $1 million investment or whatever, right? You don't deserve that team. So I think it's totally okay to ask these 2 people, please sign up for something, right? They usually do. And then the next thing we ask them is, that's cool, that's 1 year down the line, you're going to climb Mount Everest, that's awesome. What are you going to do in the next 3 months? Base Camp 1, right? You're going to go figure out how to get to Base Camp 1. That's how you get to Everest, right? Base Camp 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. Is my analogy making sense? How many of you have climbed Everest? Nobody, but it still makes sense. That's good. So, we do that, and now we're good. We're done. Planning is over. So we've got a group of 10 plus. The tribe folks are all excited. We're going to climb this mountain. The tribe leaders have said we're going to sign up for it, and we know where we're going in the next 3 months, end of story, right? That's really good to have that. Next. So, we've got this situation now, as you can see. I can run these missions and figure out how to climb the mountain. But I still felt, after we did this a little bit, something is still missing, right? Imagine your mountain is to build the iPod. Just imagine. What are your instructions? 1,000 songs in your pocket or something like that, right? You know what? Even Samsung and Sony and all these other people had the dream of 1,000 songs in your pocket. So it's not enough to pick the mountain. There's a little bit of something else that's very important. And I call that sort of like principles, and then very importantly, these things called design patterns. And somebody said pattern was a bad word, so I'll use it. I'll say design explorations. And we'll get into that example in a second, right? So you've got this team, you've told them you're going to build the iPod, you've got to make it a market success. Go. So, you'd imagine immediately they are all like running to China to figure out how to make the components and all that. But they forgot about some important things, like how much do you think we should sell it for? Because that sort of determines how expensive your components are going to be, right? A lot of these things have to do with people who manage finance, people who manage these other things who are not necessarily on your team, right? And so it's important to get these business principles sort of sorted out, because then a team can focus much more on climbing that mountain, right? It kind of like, you're saying it's going to be less than like 5 grams. It's going to be this big, by the way, and that's it, go. So the first thing then, so that's good. We've got the core principles in place, and now the team says, okay, we've got the team, we've got 1 year, we know how big this iPod needs to be, let's start building. There's one more problem. That's what Sony and these other people sort of didn't do. And it's very important for us, because when you're sending these teams on this mission, you want them to come back alive, right? I know it's all very nice to like, fail fast and all that, celebrate failure. I don't like to fail. I like to win, right? And so this other thing is important, which is called strategy and patterns. And so what is important is that this team try in their head, or at least on paper with prototypes, design 4 or 5 iPods. 4 or 5 different kinds of iPod designs. What you'll find very quickly is that it's really nice to have 1,000 songs in your pocket, but you can't actually scroll through the damn songs. Because you click, 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 your hand is going to be dead in 100 songs, right? That light bulb doesn't come when you're in the weeds, trying to make magic happen, right? So it's important to push, for example, your design organization and say, you're going to come back with some design explorations. What are 4 ways to solve the same problem? Give me some prototypes. No development has started yet. Everybody is in the design mode, trying to figure out what this thing is going to feel like. And that's when I think usually some magic happens, right? So these are some extra steps other than, here's the money, please go. A couple of extra steps to help the team be set up for success. Hopefully this is making some sense, all right? Not moving. There we go. So this is the last part. In my experience, all this white hair, a lot of success failures and other things, what is it that I look for in a team? These 2 leaders I talked about, and their sort of like their crew, a group. You can tell very quickly, this team, you know what, I'll give them my money. That's a winning team. They have not accomplished anything, but it's their attitude and a few other things, right? So this is it, and I'll show it to you, and if your teams don't have it, think about it, because I think that may be the difference between winning and losing. Click. Sorry, battery problems. No? Okay, there we go, all right. So first thing is that in the mindset of this team, it needs to be that it's a race, that speed matters, right? So, it's very convenient for a PM to be like, I don't know anything. I need to do some research. I need to talk to customers. I need to do all these things before I know the perfect plan, and then we'll start. It's important to just start, right? It's important to get moving. It's important to have some velocity. It's important to have some conviction and faith that you're going in the right direction. Another thing that drives sort of like urgency is a date, right? Now, I know engineers hate dates. I also hate it. I was an engineer once. I hate dates and deadlines and stuff like that. But having something out there, even 4 months from now, that says, we must reach base camp 1 in 4 months, puts some sense of urgency in everybody on the team, right? Like, we've got to get there. So we're heading in the direction, we know it's going to take 4 months. And as more data comes, we can then change our plan a bit. We can then maybe say, it's not 4 months, it's 4 months and 2 weeks, right? This is almost like very, I would say, I do this and it's sort of like not something that is obvious to teams. I tell them, you need to pick a date. They're like, we don't do anything. We have no scoping is done, nothing is there. I'm like, pick a date. If you can't pick a date, don't run the project. Right? Pick a date and then go. Later on, you can come back to me and we can change the date, but have a very good reason. What did you learn? Oh, it's really dangerous. Okay, why was it dangerous? Like, let's change the date later. But it helps you understand this is a race. And it really is a race because developers, time, money, all of these things are, the investment we're putting into this. And the fastest companies in the world are not the ones that are the most clever. They're just the ones that are the fastest. Okay. Anyway, this clicker is really interesting. Okay, there we go. All right, we'll keep both up. That's fine. So the next thing is to fast forward to the future. This thing I told you, right? A team that says, I can't visualize the future is going to lose. If a team cannot, in like 2 hours, 4 hours, even draw this iPod and 4 versions of this iPod and show you what it looks like, is too slow. Okay? So you got to be able to visualize the future. That's for the designers. You got to set these principles as I explained, right? Like visualize the future. How much is the price likely going to be? Are you going to sell it for $299 or $199? That's a big difference. And if you can't tell that in the beginning, you're probably not in the right business. And then the date thing, right? Can you organize the climb the mountain? It's going to be 2 months of this, then 1 more month of this, and then 1 more month of this. I like Kanban, I like Scrum, I like all these things. I also like old school planning. Like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do that. Roughly, this thing is going to take 3 months. That's how we will get there. Okay. It's important to have that. Visualize the future. Can you fast forward to the future? Okay. The last thing sometimes also, pretty obvious is like, I was waiting for a month and the designer didn't give me this thing. I was like, you're not going to succeed. Take ownership in order to break down the barriers. The way you take ownership, you can design the icon on your own. Go to the internet, there's a thing called Google, type in the name of the icon you want, take that PNG, put it in the design. For now, that's enough. That also motivates the designer. I can be replaced if I don't move fast, right? So take ownership in order to break down barriers. Another example is like, somebody's like, oh, we don't have enough engineers. Yeah, you'll never have enough engineers. Have you talked to contractors? Have you figured out whether this person who was a former engineer is now a PM, can stop being a PM for 2 months and become an engineer again? Start using your head and being creative. Again, when you're in a startup, none of these things, you're like, oh yeah, I already do this. But when you're in a bigger company and someone's paying your salary every month, right? These things don't always become the first thing in the top of your mind, okay? All right, this is super interesting. So if it's somebody else's job to know the details, you're already in trouble. But who's going to know the details? And all the details or some of the details? And which details? So it's important to know which details matter, and you should know everything about them, right? That's it. That's how winning is done, right? Some people take full ownership of knowing the details of the stuff that matters and not worrying about everything else, all right? One example is I tell my designers also, I think some of them are in the room and some of them, they'll be a little upset at the end of this. I get a design and it'll have placeholder text, So I'm like, that's important. If you are looking for the songs in the iPod and it's basically ipsum lorem, ipsum lorem, ipsum lorem, right, whatever that thing is, you don't get the feeling of what it is to use that iPod. It needs to have Pink Floyd and this and that and other songs. Then you're like, I get it, it feels good. those things are important details if you're in the UI business, right? The iPod is an experience device, right? You will never accept placeholder, even if it's a paper copy of the iPod. So know what business you're in and pay attention to those details, super important. I think we're almost done. These are the 4 things, maybe there's one more. Okay. This is the last one, I think, is maybe very important to make sure that whatever you do, this mountain you climbed, great, you climbed Everest, awesome. There's no point in climbing Everest if the next company climbs Everest 5 minutes later, sells it for like cheaper than you. What did you do? You just showed them the path, how to climb up the mountain behind you, right? So you've got to get very good at understanding what is unique to you, right? What is it that is powering your experience? Is it data? Is it intelligence? Is it something else? So it's not important to just solve the problem. It's important to solve the problem in a way that nobody can copy it, right? I don't know what to tell you, but if you do these 5 things and you're still not successful, bad luck. Okay, if you do these 5 things and you're still not successful, maybe it's teaching you, there's a 6th one at the bottom, you should add that. I missed it. But I think honestly, if my teams do these 5 things, I will sleep so well at night, knowing that these guys think it's a race. They're not, taking it easy. They can visualize the future. They can make that future happen. They're going to break down barriers. They're not going to say, sorry, I'm waiting for somebody. They're going to make it happen. I like that word. You should happen to the world. The world shouldn't happen to you. Happen to the world. Make something happen. God is in the details, right? I absolutely am so impressed when a PM knows all the important details. If they say, I need to check, I'm like, okay, you're not set up for success. And then lastly, deliver magic that people can't copy. It's that simple. It was always this simple, okay? And we didn't have to write 1,000 books about it and have me talk about it. You already knew. It's that simple, okay, guys? And that's, I think, it. Thank you.
Yeah, all right.
Catch it. Whoever catches it.
Ouch. She will see. She's going to talk to you after this.
Marty said that last year bottleneck was architects and something like that in tech organizations. What's your bottleneck now?
So bottleneck to what? So in my head, so let's say like I could be wrong, but I'm a greedy person, and I see 3-4 more mountains that we don't have enough people for, right? And so my bottleneck is I want to climb those mountains now, because we can see the opportunity and we can see that. So again, the bottleneck depends for different people. So in my head, I'm like, how do we grow this company even faster, right? How do we make this an even bigger success? And for me, those bottlenecks simply are that all of you don't work here. That's basically it. I think he wants the box.
You were working at Google, and mentioned that you were coming up with idea how to find out which task is at hand. So did you come up with that idea, and what was the solution?
Right. No, I didn't come up with the idea. I think, it's that particular concept was this big mountain at Google for many years, right? Imagine you're already working in search. The only thing you're asking yourself is, do I really understand what this user is asking for, right? So that, by the time I showed up at Google, people much smarter than me had been asking that question and trying it also. So they were trying to climb Everest. But imagine like in 2008, 2010, machine learning and AI is not so good, right? So they don't have the tools to climb the mountain. But suddenly, like in 2015, 2016, things started changing a lot, and suddenly, like, this AI machine is saying, yeah, we can predict with high accuracy, and this person wants to be adopting a pet. Even though they say puppy, they want to adopt a pet, right? So that whole magic, I think, happened, again, thanks to, I would say, like, really good researchers and other people at Google. So then you can start to see the possibility of climbing the mountain, right? So my job is not coming up with the idea or like solving the idea. In fact, I'm the worst person at solving the idea. I'm not even an engineer, right? But what I'm good at is setting up the teams to be successfully climbing the mountain. So hopefully that answered your question. Yeah.
So if, may I?
Where's the dude? Oh, there you are. Hi.
Hey, if everybody comes up with the mountains to climb,
Yeah.
who chooses which one
Yeah.
is to climb and which
Yeah.
not? And
Right.
what's the management's
Wonderful. Yeah,
role?
perfect. So, remember that guy who was there before me? He said, you want to check in your code? I'm going to find reasons to reject it. Right? So that's it. I tell people, listen, I'm here to reject ideas because it's a beauty contest, right? So unless your idea is really good, backed by some instinct, some data, some storytelling, all of these things matter, right? It has to also fit into our vision, right? Let's say that there's a really good idea. We're going to basically do a machine where women can put their hand in and get nail polish. Actually, we'll make a lot of money with that, but it's not consistent with our vision. So I'll find reasons for why I think an idea is not compatible, right? And that's really it, and they'll understand it, right? Usually, see, my job is not to tell them I'm the boss and I'll decide the ideas. My job is to tell them, here's why I think your idea won't make it this year. By the way, here's some feedback, and let's try next year, right? And so it's a very important activity, but it's much better than me coming up with the ideas, right? So, we set some rules, we get some ideas, we rank them, and then, there's a saying that when we use data, anybody can be right, but when we don't have data, we better take the most senior person's opinion, right? Because that person ultimately has to be held accountable. So in some way, I said these 3 bets, super awesome, backed by data, I feel good about. These other 2, I'm putting my nuts on the line, right? Go. So that's how you support your team is to tell them, I like your idea, but it's not very clear, but we'll still do it, right? So that's how I think leaders help support these teams in some cases. But give an opportunity for ideas to come from everywhere, right? Otherwise, just a bullshit statement, right? Ideas can come from everywhere, but I'm here to kill them, it doesn't work. More questions? It's only 8:30 in the night.
Actually, I have another one. Just a small detail.
Is it a new one or a?
It's the same one, continuation.
So I didn't answer it, okay. All right, just kidding.
Not exactly.
Just go ahead, yeah.
Do you define a continent or a region to explore?
In the world? Or like this is mountains analogy?
Like in the context of the defining mountains.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like.
How detailed is it?
How detailed? I mean, like, you don't know till you know, right? So, right now, I think Pipedrive's understanding of AI and machine learning, right, is a little bit on the like it's a child, it's growing. So I have every intention to make that child grow quickly into a teenager, right? Has to be. It has to be. Because it'd be really nice if I could read your email and tell you, hey, this deal is not going to happen, you should respond right now, right? Or I could read your email and tell you, this person wants to hear this from you, like intelligence, sales intelligence, right? All machine learning, yeah. So we know, you can call it a continent, whatever it is, we must go there, right? And guess what? The first boat that tries to go there will sink. That's fine. We will send another boat and another boat. But we will go there. So there are some things like that we know very well. We haven't figured out the mountain yet, but we must go there, get good at it, and then we will take the next step. So yeah, absolutely. There are areas like that.
Thanks.
Okay. Oh, you guys are good at throwing.
If you're receiving many ideas for sort of proposals, do you have any framework in place to sort those so that people would know what the expectations are before they get to you?
Yeah. I mean, in fact, you owe that to them, right, in the beginning. So in the beginning, what we tell people is like, I think I'll use my framework that we have. The first thing I say is it consistent with our vision, right? We are in the sales enablement business. We make a salesperson sell more. So we're not in the nail polish business, right? So that's very easy to understand. So that's one. Are we in the business? Is it aligned with our vision a little bit? It's okay if it's slightly outside. Like somebody will say, hey, marketing automation is really cool because it helps you sell more. We won't say no to that. We're like, that's interesting. So that's one. The second one is, in every small company, it's very difficult to get 1,000 customers. So if I already have 80,000 customers, like Marty told you, actually I want an idea that I can sell to these 80,000 people. Actually, it's not a bad idea, right? So that's the second rule, which is please find something these 80,000 people can buy. Because if you tell me I need to add new customers, now I suddenly have to have one marketing machine that is on these 80,000 and another marketing machine. Just can't do that, right? So that's the second criteria. The third one is what I call basically the rule for almost any good idea is show me the thumb where the hammer went on the thumb. The customer has this thumb which is got the pain. If you can't show me the pain, I'm not interested. So show me the pain, the thumb is like so much pain. Because if you solve that pain, there's some money for you, right? So third thing is show me the pain. Fourth thing is, just trying to decide, yes, when you build this new thing, Pipedrive becomes even better. So we are our business now. When we do this new thing, because of this new thing, what we do today becomes even stronger. So it's synergy, right? So that's hard. That's one of my criteria. And then the last one is because there are a lot of companies in the market, right? Like where this is Pipedrive and there's this other startup, and when the two of us are integrated together, it's a decent solution. We have to pay $5 for them and $10 for us, so $15. So what I'll tell my team is like, can you build that for $10 all together and make it even more magical? Because both these teams work inside the same company. Then you have a chance of winning, right? Now you've created something that doesn't exist, is competitive, a better experience. So those are the 5 things. I don't even remember in the order, but like part of the vision, we share the same customers, we share the same go-to-market. Like Pipedrive's go-to-market is you come to the website, you click a few things, you buy our products, that's it. Nobody in sales calls you up, right? So if you invent something that requires a sales team, it may be difficult to succeed. So consistent with our go-to-market, makes Pipedrive better, and together is the best value in the market. That's it. If you can sell me on that, even though you haven't told me how to solve it, how many engineers you need, nothing, right? I'm in, let's go. So very few ideas. I'll be the luckiest man in the world if I have like 10 ideas that meet that criteria. You know why? Because I'm like, awesome, lots of mountains. What's the difference between us and success? Only engineers, which is an easy problem, relatively. All of you should work here. That's why I keep telling you the same thing. Next question or last question, or what do you like? Does the management have to pitch and demo everything? Well, I mean, not in this system, to be honest. When you say management, you mean who exactly? The people who run the tribe? Huh? Yeah, I mean, I'm selling you guys now. Like, always be selling, right? Always be closing. So, yeah, I mean, my job is to do that. I have to do it with my board, with my other executives and everybody else. But I'm not trying to sell them like why we should invest in something. I'm taking, hopefully, the person who came up with the idea is the one doing the selling, right? And so I'm not sure I actually answered your question or even understand your question. But managers, senior people are selling other things. And, right. No. Same system. That works, right? I'm from America. Freedom and equality for all. Anyway, so yeah, that's how it works. So, that said, a little bit of respect. I'll be like, you are the CEO. We will look into it. But I don't say that we will do it. All right, I think we're good. Daniel's giving me the look. Martha, yeah.